fourth component of understanding your true cost of drilling is knowing how efficient you're operating. You can take it a step further with something called the efficiency calculator, correct?
That's correct. And this efficiency calculator is really where it gets eye-opening, because there's a misconception of how many hours an employee works every year versus how many hours are available for revenue producing activities. So let's just think about something quick. An average employee works 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. That's 2,080 hours. So let's just ignore overtime real quick. So 2,080 hours is a baseline for any 40-hour-a-week employee that's working for a full year. But what we miss sometimes, most times, is what about the vacations that they take? What about the holidays that we give, right? What about project delays that are on us that we can't bill the client for? What about scheduled safety meetings that we have every week? What about scheduled update meetings, right? How the job's going, right? Can we bill the client for that? Maybe we can, maybe we can't, right? But the point here is that if an employee is working, it works that we pay an employee 2,080 hours a week, right? If we look at it, how much billable time is there? It could only be 1,200 hours, 1,300 hours. So the question becomes, what do we do about that discrepancy? Because we have to pay the employee. We're paying the employee a full year salary, right? So how do we account for all that unused time? And really what the efficiency calculator does is it takes a look at their total hours available for revenue producing activities, right? And when we roll all this up in the very end and we look at this, we take the total productive hours for all of our direct employees, right? After we take into consideration holidays and breaks and meetings and all that, we take those productive hours, that pool, and we spread it over our total drilling cost. And that determines how much it costs us to go out there and perform the work per hour, right? And it's just eye-opening. If you don't take into consideration the things like meetings and vacations, that's where we miss the mark, right? Because now our quote isn't going to reflect all this time that we still have to pay employees for, right? But they're not actually out there able to generate a profit doing it and earn revenue doing it. Let's talk about the efficiency template that's on your screen right now. So once again, similar to our manpower template, the areas that you really want to focus on are the gray areas. That is where information has to be populated. Everything else will roll over from the manpower template and from the other templates that we have. If you have any questions on those, check those out at rigsource.com under the resources section. All of that information can be found there. But getting back to the efficiency template, first we need to figure out how much time this employee is given off. That's through paid time off and through holidays. And some employees might have different sections for that. Some employees might get 2 weeks time off. Some employees might only get 1 week time off. So it's on an employee-specific basis that you need to populate this information. Typically, employees get the same number of holidays off, so you can take that number and run it down the whole list of employees that you have. The next section is mandatory non-billable. These are your 1-hour safety meetings a week, right? It's not that big, but it all adds up, right? So we have to take that into consideration. Another one is personal training. There's a lot of events and things and continuing professional education hours and credit hours that these licensed drillers need. So sending them to go get their certification and training is taking them away from billable time on projects. We have to take that into consideration as well. So that gets us to our total production or total available productive hours in a given year. The next section takes into consideration the realities. Well, we know that drill rigs need maintenance, and we know that when we're working on equipment, that's taking away from us out drilling and generating revenue, right? So we have to take that into consideration. We know that there's unforeseen project delays. Some of those we might not be able to bill the client for, right? It might not be the client's responsibility, or that's how the contract is written. So we have to take those into consideration. Once we take those into consideration, at the very end, you come to your total hours available for revenue producing activities. And this is the key number that we want to find by employee, right? And the last section on that template shows how much of those costs are absorbed. And that calculation is how much time is available for revenue producing activities times the fully burdened rate of each employee that comes from the manpower document. That tells you how much labor is getting absorbed into revenue producing activities. That is a key metric that we're going to look at in subsequent sections down the line.